There were days when we were sort of hugging each other, in tears, wondering why we'd done this. And then other days when you're looking at a sunset with a herd of elephants by a river, drinking a cold can of Hansa beer and thinking, wow, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life.
That is Simon Reeve. He's an Australian TV personality who lived in Africa, and he has a love affair with it. In fact, you know Simon, Phil.
I do. I've known Simon quite a while. I actually knew his father before that as well, over in Perth.
And he gave you speech lessons.
I can see where you're going here, Kim.
No, there's nothing that you can mispronounce in this podcast at all. Let's hope if you haven't already been there, this episode of the podcast focusing on Botswana will help shoot it to the top of your travel list.
Yeah, it's a landlocked country in southern Africa and has a landscape defined by the Kalahari Desert and the Okavango Delta, which becomes a lush animal habitat during the seasonal floods. In fact, it's home to the world's largest population of elephants.
Yep. In this episode, we'll hear more from Simon, obviously, and another Australian who fell in love with photographing the wild animals of Africa. There's Kelsey Timmerman, New York Times bestselling author and a champion of global thinking and local action. He's in the episode. And award-winning travel journo Heather Richardson. She'll tell us about the sandbushmen of Botswana. But we kick off with your quiz question.
Pretty simple one. What is the major export of Botswana?
Find out at the end of the episode.
Indeed.
When I was researching this chat, I came across an article from a few years ago, and it starts off with, he may be a sought-after TV star.
Maybe.
Who appears on a slew of 7 shows. But despite his rising profile, Simon Reeve's heart is with Africa. We've got him on the line now to chat Botswana. Simon, you are indeed a TV star.
Well, probably was, I think, Kim. I think that rising profile, that might have been quite a few years ago. Now I'm just hanging on with my fingernails, but it's all good. But yes, most definitely, Phil and Kim, my heart is still across the Indian Ocean.
Well, explain to us, how did you make that connection? How did you fall in love with Botswana?
So I fell in love with Africa first on a Beyond 2000 shoot, which was back in 1990. And I stepped off a plane in Harare when Qantas used to fly there. Believe it or not, Qantas had flights every week into Johannesburg and into Harare as well in Zimbabwe, the country's capital. And I stepped off a plane there, and it was just like a rush. It was visceral, and it was the smells, the feel, the magic of the place. People and the bush as well. So I kind of returned from that trip and said to my dearly long-suffering partner, Linda, I said, look, you can come too, but I'm going to go and live in Africa at some point in my life, and look, she very courageously said, yep, we're in. So it took us a while for everything to sort of line up, but I'd met some wonderful South African folks on another show that I worked for called Wildlife, which took me to Africa quite a lot. And they moved their safari operations to Botswana. So I was able to convince them that it might be a good idea to attach a small production company to their safari operation. And lo and behold, next thing you know it, we packed up, took our then 20-month-old daughter, Stella, with us, and in 1999 we set sail for Botswana. So we lived in a small town called Maun, M-A-U-N, which services the Okavango Delta and everything to the north. So it's the sort of safari hub, I guess, where everyone flies into from Johannesburg or other places, and then off they go into the Delta to have their Botswana experience. So we were there for 2.5 years and absolutely loved it.
So it was that palpable when you stepped off the plane that this place was talking to you somehow?
It was, Kim. It really was. And I think that if there's anyone listening who has been to Africa, to any parts of Africa, I think they'll relate to what I'm saying here. And I still have it. It has not gone. It's gotten worse, I think, over the years.